like, and having these moments of, like trusting and staying in trust, and then something happens and you're like, that was super uncomfortable, but still right now I'm on the other side and it's so much better. And that's also something that I find so hard and so difficult and so mean sometimes, right? Because right now, especially like in this like woo-woo woke spiritual world, everyone is always like, oh yeah, things just have to be easy, and if stuff's not easy, it's not right for you. And I'm always like, you know what, if you read the books, like if you read the philosophy, any which one, Buddhism, like yoga, Zen Buddhism, all of them, they all have an aspect of suffering, because again, like we come here, we have the mind makes us suffer in the way that like it brings us into this feeling of separation. So no, things are not just magically just easy. They're just not, right? Life is hard on many different levels, and then I can decide if I want to go down the, oh my God, everything is so hard and it's only hard, if I want to go down that path, or if I want to go down, it's really hard, it's a really uncomfortable situation right now, whichever situation that is, and how can I find a way with the tools that I have, or the tools that I can find, that I feel in my bones that help me, how can I find a way to get myself out of the situation? But then again, you will actually have to do something.
Yeah. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth and spirituality. My name is Maxi, I'm your host, and today I'm welcoming you from beautiful England, near Chester, from a beautiful, beautiful country home of friends of mine. You will see it in the background, you'll see it in the video of this episode. I'm sitting here in this bedroom and I'm just so grateful for everything that has been happening these last couple of days since I embarked on this trip, and the hospitality and unconditional love that I have received of the people that I have spent time with. So that frequency is basically alive within me, and I hope to bring this also into this episode. Now, that being said, the episode that I'm going to be sharing with you today is one that I've recorded a couple of days ago before departing Germany. So it is being recorded, or it was being recorded in Berlin, and I am speaking with Michaela Aue. Michaela is a yoga and meditation teacher, and moreover, a very wise woman. I have discovered her through the work of somebody else that I'm going to be speaking with on the podcast as well. And I listened to her podcast basically, and I just really loved the way that she was guiding her conversations, how she was holding space in them, how curious she was about finding out about the person that she was speaking with, and frankly I was just really learning, while listening to her. And also, I, as you know, am a very avid supporter of meditation. I think, as I've mentioned before, it is, in my opinion, one of the simplest yet most powerful daily practices that you can do in order to live a better life, to increase your quality of life significantly. And Michaela is, if I may say so, an expert in meditation. And so that was the initial starting point of my motivation to speak with her. Now, as so often with a podcast, there is like an initial impulse of why I want to be speaking with someone, and while actually then speaking with them, that changes, and I'm just always open for the magic of the moment. And so with that conversation in particular, that was really much the case. So I went in, and as always I prepared, and I thought we're going to be really deep diving into meditation, and we sort of did here and there, but moreover we really were speaking about the illusion of control, about dealing with uncertainty, about giving up control, about surrender, and how it served Michaela very much on her personal journey, how basically I can integrate dealing with uncertainty and her learnings from doing that for so many years, how I can apply that in my life. So there was a lot of just speaking about life in this episode, and then we went on to really integrate that with yogic teachings and the way that yogic scriptures and really ancient texts, what they have to say about basically resisting and clinging and basically pushing away and clinging to things instead of just experiencing life as she unfolds. So if you are in your life at a stage where you feel like there's a lot of uncertainty around you, this episode will, I think, serve you a great deal and might bring some light into the darkness and make you feel not alone, because we are all navigating this. We all don't have the book of life. Nobody does. Neither us nor our parents, as much as we sometimes like to think that. And so it was quite healing for me to be speaking with Michaela in that capacity and to learn, quite frankly, again, as I do with every single guest and every single episode that I'm doing here. So that all being said, my heart is so full, and I'm looking forward to take you on this journey as I'm going on it myself, about my initiation, about so many exciting things that are coming up. And I wish you just beautiful insights from this conversation with Michaela Aue. So nice to be here. Thank you for allowing me to come into your new space.
Very new.
I mean, looking at the frame of the camera, it'll look like a perfectly arranged place from what we can see. But it's actually a nice sort of projection of what is going on inside of me. And I feel like many people right now, entering a new phase, something new, unknown, a lot of uncertainty is in the air in many ways, right? And so I feel like this is a nice testament to that.
What's the new phase for you?
Oh, wow.
I'm like, okay, let's turn this around and let's interview Maxi and see what comes up.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you're skilled in that, so
I pretend to be, but yeah.
Well, so I'm 29. I'm turning 30 next year.
Oh my God, those were the days.
Saturn return and in all its glory and everything that's coming with that. So this year has been incredibly intense for me. I've spent the last 7 years with a beautiful woman, and the romantic partnership came to an ending in March, and along with that, my whole life changed, so I was actually living in Potsdam, and so we gave up on the apartment, and I moved to Sylt.
Oh wow, of all places.
Yeah, I know. And I just worked there over the summer season now. Just returned a couple of days ago to my hometown, to my mom, to my dad, and to my grandparents, and just said hi. And now I'm off onto this big journey of figuring out who I am as a man, becoming a man. So I'm really, I'm doing that very I'm taking that quite seriously, or I'm putting a lot of focus on that. So I'm working with an organization called Sacred Sons. They do a lot of work only with men. So
is that Nick Warner's thing?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But they have campuses and facilitation trainings all over the world, and I'm gonna be participating in the yearly annual convergence, it's called, and it's gonna be 300 men coming together in Los Angeles. So it's where I'm gonna be heading, and this is gonna play a big part. So I'm doing a lot of interviews now leading up to it, or over the whole course. So I'm gonna be in Ireland, I'm gonna be in the UK, I'm gonna be in the US, conducting a lot of interviews with people I find inspiring. Because yes, the podcast is something that is, I don't know, it started off as a little bit of a side thing, and now it's just growing and getting bigger and more significant in my life. And so I try to combine that. And when I come back, I want to explore a whole different sort of aspect of myself, and in my career professionally. Been working in online marketing and business sort of project management and kind of stuff, but it's so unbelievably unsatisfying for me. It became so insignificant. I had the feeling I don't really contribute anything meaningful. So now entering this whole world of healing and having those conversations really turned me on to also stuff that I naturally can bring into the world. And so I feel really drawn towards the world of healing, and I'm still figuring out what that exactly means. Is if that's really a more traditional path, and it's actually a super nice segue into the conversation here with us, because this is how I discovered you, because I love Marie-Sophie and her work, and that's the first interview I listened to on your podcast, and that's how I discovered you. So that's how that all came to be. And then what I just really liked is, and this is also part of the questions that I wrote down, is that I really like how you were holding space in the interview, and just in generally do. And yeah, obviously I don't know anything or nearly anything about you, but sometimes it's just not really necessary to know a lot of the story to just see someone, and I have the feeling that this is the case with you. So all of that being said just makes me even more happy to just be here now and talk to you, and now ask you what maybe new phase or stage is beginning for you with this new apartment and everything else that is coming along with.
That's a very good question. I don't know. That's still remain to be seen, I guess. I hope for maybe a bit it's sort of like two-faced, maybe even three, who knows. I'm hoping for a bit more of a quiet time in comparison to like the last 1.5 years. But then at the same time, I'm also kind of excited to, let's say, to grow in different ways. So, okay, this sounds very cryptic. How can we bring this down? So I haven't had an apartment for 1.5 years due to different circumstances. And in the beginning, I didn't even know if I wanted to have like a fixed home or not or whatever. And I could always live with very little. So I really don't have many attachments. This is why, I mean, on the one hand, it's exciting right now, you know, like you're sitting on this new couch and I'm super excited about it. But also, like, I gave up all of my furniture, all of my stuff, you know, I don't mind. Like, I was separating from my partner. I had to move out of the apartment that we shared. And I'm way better at giving stuff up. So I was like, whatever, I don't want any of the furniture, you know, like I have 2 chairs and this lamp, and, you know, and my clothes. And even that, like, I'm giving up over and over and over again. So no problem there. But what I'm excited now is the exact opposite, because especially in like this 1.5 years, and especially in the last 6 months where we were really moving, well, me and my dog, I always say we, but we are we, so. No,
yeah, it's super cute.
truly.
Like from the first moment,
Yeah.
like it's like, yeah, I was
I
noticing
mean,
you were addressing the both of us, or both of you.
yeah, it's like it's always just we. I don't know. Ever since she came into my life, it's just my friends make fun of me. I'm like this dog woman meme Instagram thing, and I'm like the over 40 no children but dog lady kind of thing, you know, and I'm happy to be that, you know. You can send me all of the videos with you know, like with people coming to parties with their dogs or coming up with great excuses. Oh no, I can't come tonight, you know, like my dog's not feeling well. That's absolutely me, and I'm fine with it. But circling back to in the last 6 months, me and her were really moving every 6 weeks from place to place. So even from the stuff that I had slimmed down already so much, I had to slim down even more. And then by the end of it, I was really tired of it. I was like, okay, you know what? I've proven myself that I can renunciate from so many things. And honestly, I don't know if that's the deal right now. I feel like the deal for me is right now to, not that I want to accumulate a lot of stuff, because I really don't find it necessary, but it's more like just being somewhere and taking up space, you know. And with taking up space comes, you know, and I found, I mean, all of the stuff, like, unfortunately you can't see it, I'm sorry guys, all of these little things, you know. I mean, I'm so excited to have this giraffe again, you know, like the alpaca. I mean, they are all things, presents I got from friends of mine. I didn't miss them one single day when they were gone, but now I'm just super excited to have them back, you know, and they make the space, you know, like they help me, you know, taking over the space and growing and getting the roots and everything. And I think that's kind of what it's all about, like really taking up space instead of just like always getting less and less and less and less and being like, oh no, I don't need anything, you know. And I know I never have, but still I'm trying to go the opposite way now.
That's very interesting. Like, because it's like resonating with me on like many levels. I see myself in a lot of that, and I think it ties nicely into a conversation about what it is you're doing as well, when it comes to meditation, and therefore meditation. And then let's just like take that as an example. I just see the Yoga Sutras laying there. So, you know, just a yogic path overall, renouncing things, giving up on worldly things and attachments, versus being here, you know, as a human, and having needs and desires. And so this is like sort of like a very interesting overall thing that I also try to, or not try to, like I don't try things, I would say I do, so do, not try. That's what I learned also in the podcast. So I'm doing more than trying, but like I'm really interested in finding out the balance between living in the here and now with no attachments and no clinging, no resisting, right? And at the same time, just being fully aware of being embodied and being incarnated in flesh and bone, right? How is that for you?
I think it's a super simple answer to a very complex question. So I've been doing yoga for more than 20 years. I had many teachers, and I still do, obviously. And the Yoga Sutra is really one of my favorite books. You could spend a lifetime getting to know that book. And I think the most important thing for everyone to understand, or for you or for me or whoever, for everyone who is interested in the yoga path, is that there have always been two ways to go down this path, right? If you look in the philosophy, if you look in the scriptures, there have always been the people who do renunciate from the world, like the rishis, the monks, like the people that, of course, in the beginning, yoga came from all of those wise people, like if you could potentially say they channeled all of this knowledge, or most of it, right? I mean, channeled again is a loaded word, but basically they were doing these rituals, these practices, and then they had stuff come to them in their meditative states, right? And then it was a secret knowledge for a really long time, and then people slowly started to write things down. And then with Patanjali, possibly even before, but it's kind of hard to say because nobody really knows the exact time frames. But whenever that book was written, and also I want to say, we don't know if it was just one person, what kind of gender that person had, if it were many people. And it doesn't matter, because what they did in that book is like they took the knowledge and try to really, slim it down and make it a strategic package for many people to understand how the path of yoga can bring you to enlightenment, right? And with that, it started that we have one way you can become a monk and renunciate from the world if this is what your soul chooses to do, and that's great. And it really makes things easier on many levels, because you don't have to care about a job. You don't have to care about the food. You don't even have to care about clothes or anything. But, obviously it's not the path for everyone. And then the other path is the householder path, which is, what you and I are on, meaning we are here in this world having a human experience. And we should, because apparently that's why we came. That's what, and again, I want to say from a yogic philosophy point, right? If you believe in any kind of other philosophy, it could be a different way, but that's a completely different conversation. But from that kind of philosophy, we came here to have this experience and still try to be connected to our own spirituality. So of course, like I have one teacher and he always says, like, how can you, without having any attachments, how can you learn to give them up? Like, let's say if you're attached to your job and the identity that comes with a job, if you never have a job, if you never do any of these things, how will you be able to make this experience to come to the conclusion that the job is great, but that your identity is way too connected to it, that this causes suffering in your life, and then decide for yourself and self-reflect, how can you find a way that this is different, and how can you detach from that identity and it doesn't necessarily have to say that you have to give up the job. You can if you want to, but maybe that's sometimes the solution, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe the solution is to just, find a different thing in your life that, like gives you some kind of fulfillment, so that, like your mind shifts away from, oh my God, I'm only worth something if I'm doing this job. Maybe there's something else, right? So that's the thing, like we're here to have this experience. So our life consists in always not 24/7, 365 days a year, but just always living the life and then reflecting back on it and seeing how we can change whatever it is that we're doing, so that we, like are more and more aligned with whatever, like the philosophy says, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, like really much. Being and becoming is something that comes up for me when you are sharing that.
I don't want to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I want to say one thing. So in the Yoga Sutras, we have the yamas and the niyamas. I don't know, you've probably heard of them, right? So that is basically qualities of how to interact with the outside world and qualities that help you to get to know yourself better, right? And there's one that is called santosha, which is roughly translated into, happiness is a little basic, but something like that. And santosha, when people hear it, they often think, oh, okay, so I should be happy and grateful, period, and I'm not allowed to have any more goals, right? And it's not about that. It's about being grateful and happy for what you have right now, while still thriving for something that you want to achieve. So you can be here and you are still allowed to become something, right? But instead of, and it's a very German thing, I guess, to be, complaining all the time. I don't know if you know what I mean.
No.
Yes.
Who does that? Who does such a thing?
So, but
it's the Germans.
I don't know, but I always feel like it's a very German thing to just always have something to complain, and you're like, oh my God, you could all need santosha so much in your life. Anyways, but yeah, how can you do that? How can you have some kind of like gratefulness? And again, I don't know, write a list, don't write a list, I don't care, but how can you be grateful? How can you be excited for the life that you're in right now, and then still make yourself or be on the way to, I don't know, get wherever you want to be without feeling bad about it? Because we're human beings. Of course we need a goal. Like, of course we need to have a vision of where we want to be. And then, it's always like following the path and then adjusting, readjusting, and just, that's what life is. We'll never be 100% sure, I guess, until we die. And then, you see it all flashing backwards and you're like, oh, this is interesting. This is what I was supposed to be learning, right? Then we'll know. Until then, we don't. And that's okay. And we just have to find a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm very strict sometimes. Sorry. I just get so annoyed with like...
No, but it's like, no. You're right on the money there. Like, yeah, it's... So basically, I wanna ask you, like, you sitting here now, because so cognitively I understood that intellectually quite a while ago, and then life happens, right? And so I guess as I'm not making a solo episode, just sharing what I share or like what I experience, I'm like super interested in like how it is for you. Meditation, very powerful for me to like become present, for example, so to nourish that part of like arriving. But yes, I would be interested in, okay, that all being said, being here while and being grateful for what is, while, and you're doing a lot of things in the world. Yeah, like you're not like renouncing and like, I don't know, living in a cave. You're participating. And so how was that journey for you? How is it still? And how do you balance those two worlds of, being grateful for what is, thriving, and having goals and establishing them? Yeah. How do you manage that?
I guess the most important thing for me is, and it sounds ridiculous and people that know me will probably laugh, and that's okay, you can. The most important thing for me is my sadhana. So in yoga, sadhana, personal practice or spiritual practice, but you can leave the word spiritual out because it's really just about taking the time for yourself on the mat, on the pillow. And I don't know, for me it is meditation, but then, like I use yoga and meditation interchangeably, because, like yoga for me is an asana, it's everything. And then the whole goal is to, I don't know, I don't necessarily need to reach enlightenment. I mean, it would be fun, but it's more like having this time and space to understand who I am and why I came here, right? What's the deal with like doing all of this? And then again, like there's meditation, which is the practice in and of itself, but then yoga is an embodied philosophy, right? So it's not just sitting there in silence, or I do a lot of Kundalini yoga and meditation, so I chant a lot, because I just, it's one of my favorite ways to meditate. There's many, many different ways, and everyone has to find their own thing. But it's not just sitting there doing the meditation, hoping that everything is going to fall into place, or at the moment I have this, people do that, like you'd be surprised. I have this 4-week meditation course, and at the moment where like the edition we're doing is on prosperity, which is like a super important part in Kundalini yoga. And there are people who are like, okay, so I'm meditating and then the job, the relationship, like the money bag is just gonna magically fall into my lap. And I'm always like, no, you still have to go out and do things, Meditation is there to get to know you, to understand your thoughts, your thought patterns, like the behavior that comes out of your thought patterns. And then when you sit there every day and the same thought keeps on coming up and keeps on coming up and keeps on coming up, and maybe you're smart enough to maybe write it down so that you don't forget, because the older you get, the more you forget. That would be me. So I'm writing down, I'm noticing, right? And then when I'm out in the world, I'm recognizing the thought and I'm recognizing the situation. I'm like, this is interesting. I had that in my meditation. So I can stop, because that's also what I learned in my meditation, right? That there is this point of, like in between two thoughts where you can decide and discern like which way you want to go. So in my day-to-day life, I can stop, I can take a step back, and I can be like, okay, I could right now get back to my old behavior, or I can try something new, right? So, I mean, my parents always said that, like I'm overthinking things and whatever. And I would just say yes, I reflect a lot, and I've never really been interested in like these corporate careers. I never understood it. Like when everyone was climbing the corporate ladder, I was just changing from one job to the next. And I was always like, this is bullshit. Like, I don't get the whole concept. I mean, I get that we all have to earn money, obviously. But I was not, and I'm still not. Like, I admire people who do it. I have friends who have like crazy job titles, and I'm always like, wow, I mean, I could never do that. I would get so bored, and I was just like following my teachers. I was just going from one teacher to the next, from one class to the next. I was just sitting there listening to them and then trying to find ways to incorporate that into my life. So, if we go back to the 1.5 years without an apartment, it was a completely different way of practice, because it was that time in my life where I was like, okay, I don't know what I want. I don't know where I want to live. I don't know how I want to live. I don't know if I want to live by myself. I don't know if I want to live with someone, because I was living in a shared flat situation with a woman who was in her 50s, so like a bit more than 10 years older than I am. And it was such a great experience, just having this woman, again, being more than 10 years older, and I could see that, and I was like, oh, okay, like this gives me so much life and so much hope to see how you can see the world when you're 50. And I mean, especially for women, like once we hit 30, I mean, people don't want us anymore, right? So we have to find ways to, want ourselves. And I love her. She's going to move across the street, and I'm so excited for that. So I was just in this phase where when people would ask me, I was always like, I don't know, because I didn't. And that was a practice, to be okay with not knowing, because sometimes we don't know. And then we can either try to find a way to push ourselves, what society does, but you have to know, like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't know. Like, give me some time. I'll figure it out. And then at some point I kind of knew that I wanted to have an own place again, but I wouldn't fully trust yet that I could find something. And it is still unheard of, but I didn't fully trust that I can find something that is in Mitte, that is affordable, that will still give me flexibility, that I still love, because we all know how it is with apartments. You cannot just move anywhere. Like, you have to feel the vibe in a way, and you step into some apartments and you're like, this is it, and then you step into others and you're like, no fucking way. So I kind of already knew that, like I would have to make that choice, but I wasn't willing to do it yet. And then of course you get pushed, so then I had to move out because her daughter had to move back in. And then I was like, okay, wow, this is interesting. I knew it was coming, but I wasn't quite willing to like take the plunge, if you will, or jump off the cliff. And then, like basically from her telling me that I have to move out, or us discussing that I have to move out, and then finding this apartment, it was like less than a week. But then I already knew that I had to wait for this place, right? Because I saw it in March and now we have September, and I knew that they had to do renovations and la 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 la. I didn't know it would take that long, but it was like a really short period of time. And then for those 6 months, I hadn't signed a contract or anything, and I just went with the feeling. I went with the feeling of, this is the place. I can trust the person. I haven't looked at any apartment. And I also know that, of course, like I'm in a privileged situation, like having networks and contacts that help me. Yeah, I'm fully aware of it. But I also had many friends being like, you have to find something, you have to ask them for the contract, you have to do this, you have to do that. So again, like the outside world telling me stuff, and my practice to discern, decipher, and decide, do I want to follow that? Like, do I want to listen to them and do what they tell me to do? Or do I want to listen to myself? And then always, and it wasn't easy, it's because, of course, like, again, you're in Germany, everyone needs paperwork, everyone needs to sign contracts, la, 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 to make something real, right? But then the practice was to sit down, to meditate, and then whenever the doubt came up, to go back again and be like, okay, so what is it? Is this the time where I wrote him every 2 months or so, just to check in and keep saying, hey, I'm still here, I'm still waiting. And he was always like, yeah, I know, we're still, like, I'll let you know whenever it's ready. And at some point I was like, oh my God, like, is this ever gonna happen? But still, I could not let go of this apartment. Like, I didn't want to detach because I knew it had everything I wanted it to be, right? And that was the practice, like staying in that trust and being okay with the doubt. And it was like an overall a really difficult year. Business-wise was super difficult. The living situation was super difficult. And again, I had many, many lucky incidences and privileged situations. And then I was together with like one of my oldest friends, love him to death, and he is a psychologist also. And it was like one of those moments where I was like, oh. And he looked at me and said, you know what? Maybe it's okay that you find your situation shitty right now. And maybe that can just be it. And I was like, this is interesting. And then, and then that was the practice, to be like, you know what? It is a shitty situation. It's not easy. Like no one finds it easy to not really have a home and to not know when you can start growing roots again, and to have all of these hiccups in your business and have all of these like troubles with everything, the German Finanzamt, and money and all of it, and still finding ways to not completely flip out, because I could have done that too, right? But then always, like find a way again to take a step back and be like, okay, so what's the next best step? What's the next logical thing to do? And I'm not sure if I'm fully answering, but also let's say the last 3 weeks have been super intense because they were really the lead up to moving in here. And you mentioned it before, I have a podcast myself, and I haven't published an episode in probably a month, right? And I never wanted to take like these summer breaks and stuff, but I just noticed that right now with like the whole moving and all of it, I just don't have the capacity. I don't have the capacity to sit down. I don't have the capacity to organize interviews and all of that, and I felt bad for 10 minutes and I was like, but you know what? Take a short break, move in, and then all of the capacity will come back, because then all of the stuff's going to be at one place. I'll have a home again, and then I can start focusing on these things again. Like then I can start launching new things in my business. Of course, I have a million ideas, but do I want to launch a new course right now in this situation? No, I don't. Should I because of money? Absolutely yes. But I'm not going to, because it's not going to be okay. And all of this also being said, that this is what I know for myself, right? Other people might be able to deal different with these situations. And that's also something that yoga teaches you, because it's not a philosophy. It's not a practice that you just like put over everything and then everyone has to behave the same way. No, it's a philosophy that you take and again, you discern for yourself, and then you make the choices. And also it doesn't mean that it makes you egoistic or any of this, it's still, because if you look at the practices, if you look at the scriptures, it always includes also the interaction you have with other people, like knowingly or unknowingly, or being aware of it or not being aware of it. Because also, like from the qualities of how to live your life and that help you to make decisions, they are always best case scenario in like in the best way for everyone. Right? So it's not just all about just me, Let's just quickly bring it back to the business. It is about me saying I don't have the capacity, but then again, it's also for the others, because if I would launch something now and I would know that I would maybe have 50% to give, it would be really devastating for the people to pay, I don't know, whatever kind of money, and then have a half-assed course with a teacher who's not really there yet because she's somewhere else. So
yeah, absolutely. Something I very strongly receive while you are sharing is a very strong energy from you that is very deep inside of you, very safe, secure. You were. There was a lot of. You mentioned trust. You mentioned intuition various times, and I received that. I receive a lot of uncertainty. Yes, okay, in your situation right now, can relate to that. And because because of the similarities in our lives and also the view on how you look at life and your professional life as well, it's very similar to how I look at it as well. I feel that very strongly, and that's why for me what is coming up so much is like, okay, so I would be very curious and very eager to hear from you how you cultivate safety in your system and trust. Because right now, I'm telling you, I know so many people, including myself, who more and more realize and come to the conclusion, it always has been that way, but like now it's like, I don't know, with a magnifying glass, it's like even, it's getting so strong that like there's absolutely zero control of our external environment.
But there never has been.
There never has been, exactly. There never has been. Sometimes society may suggest that, but like really doesn't is like that way. And so we have to find it within us, because it's just like impossible for us to control what's happening. And so yes, how do you cultivate that within you? Because there's, like I said, I really received that that you're living from a place of deep safety within you, even though not knowing a lot of things, you know.
Not always, but I mean, you know, like nothing lasts forever. So first of all, I guess acknowledging that control is an illusion. It's as simple as that, you know, like there's nothing you can control in life, nothing, except I guess your mind. Like that is something I do believe that I can teach my mind, right? Because it's going to do its own thing. But if I take it by the hand, and again, it's practice, you know, also like can't say that often enough. And people who know me know that I say that a lot. Meditation and all of these practices, they are practices, and a practice needs to be practiced. And again, Yoga Sutras, I don't know the exact word, but like reframing it, Patanjali also says that you will reach the goal with meditation if you study it or if you practice consistently over a long period of time on a regular basis. So personal sadhana every day, right? Getting back to that. So first of all, acknowledging that I have no control over nothing. And I mean, I don't know, like funny thing is like my parents and also my sister, they're like super safety driven, you know, like they all have been working for the same employer for their entire life, you know. And again, like even as a child, for whatever reason, I could not buy into the system. I could not buy into the, like, this is how it's going to go. My mom is still terrified for me of being freelance, right? She deals with it way better now after all this time. Because, you know, you could also say like, and it is not safe again, because you can control it, but in my mind, then it always goes like, but you know what, how much can I actually control a job where I'm employed by someone? They can kick me out every day, you know. It's just, and then, yeah, of course, then I'm unemployed, I could get unemployment money, but you know, I mean, who knows? So for me, it's like, it doesn't make a difference in my world. So again, acknowledging like safety or like being in control of anything is just, it's an illusion. And then learning how to be okay with it. And then the other thing that is part of a spiritual practice is surrender. And especially with the unknown, right? Again, like we don't know shit. And of course, you know, like then the ego comes in and wants to know, the mind comes in and wants to know, but truly for what, right? Do I have to know I mean, some of the things I'm really interested in, but anyways, you know, like that goes in a different direction. So it's surrender and like the giving up in the most positive way, giving up of the need to control every little thing and leaving room for the unexpected, and also the not having a strategy, you know, just again, not having a strategy. Again, you can have a goal, you can have a vision, you know, but if you're like, and I have to do it this way, you miss out on so much. Because, you know, like you might force your way through it, you might push your way through it, but what would happen if you would leave room for the unexpected? What would happen if you would have trust? And here again, it gets tricky because I do have trust in whatever you want to call it, like some kind of overall energy. Some might call it God, some might call it, in yoga they call it Ishvara, like the pure consciousness, whatever it is, like whatever word you find for it. But if you can find a way to trust in that, then you can leave room for the unexpected.
How do you find a way to trust in it? You personally?
I don't know, I guess through all of my teachers.
Okay.
Because I've learned a lot from them, and as I said, like I still do, and I guess also through listening to them, to their stories, finding ways how they explain the philosophy, and then practicing it.
Yeah.
And and having these moments of like trusting and staying in trust, and then something happens and you're like, that was super uncomfortable, but still right now I'm on the other side and it's so much better. And that's also something that I find so hard and so difficult and so mean sometimes, right? Because right now, especially like in this like woo-woo woke spiritual world, everyone is always like, oh yeah, things just have to be easy, and if stuff's not easy, it's not right for you. And I'm always like, you know what, if you read the books, like if you read the philosophy, any which one, Buddhism, like yoga, Zen Buddhism, all of them, they all have an aspect of suffering, because again, like we come here, we have the mind makes us suffer in the way that like it brings us into this feeling of separation. So no, things are not just magically just easy. They're just not, right? Life is hard on many different levels, and then I can decide if I want to go down the, oh my God, everything is so hard and it's only hard, if I want to go down that path, or if I want to go down, it's really hard, it's a really uncomfortable situation right now, whichever situation that is, and how can I find a way with the tools that I have, or the tools that I can find, that I feel in my bones that help me, how can I find a way to get myself out of the situation? But then again, you will actually have to do something.
Yeah.
And that's the part that is so hard for people to understand, because again, they just want all of the positive stuff, that they don't want to work for it, but you have to work for it. And I had this, I hope she listens to it. So I was giving a teacher training last year, and I had this one woman taking the course, and she's amazing. And she wants to combine meditation with sound healing, right? Mm-hmm. And for their final exam, like we don't do exam the exam way, so they had to come up with an 8-week course of meditation and give me the outline and the topics that they want to talk about, and the meditations they wanted to use, and so that they have something in their hands once they finish the training that they can actually start with. And then I asked them to do that and to record one session out of it, like the full session, so I can listen to it and I can give them feedback on it. Way past the deadline, she writes me an email and she's like, yeah, I'm really having issues like doing the video. I have the course, I have the outline, but I don't know, I can't do it. And I was wondering if we could have, because she had one more one-on-one session open with me, if we could do a one-on-one session, and I do it in the one-on-one session with you. And I read it, and like, aside the fact that I had set a deadline for a particular purpose, because I knew my life would be chaos after this point and I wouldn't have the capacity to do any of this anymore. I just read it and I was like, you know what, girlfriend, it's not gonna happen. And of course I wrote her back really nicely, and I tried to, I pretended I was trying to find some dates with her, and then it never matched up. And then her, she always took a long time to respond, and then I did, because I just, I was in the whole moving whatever kind of mess, right? Because I had read it and I was like, no, we're not going to make it easy for you. If you really want to teach, and you do, and you can, because you're going to be amazing at it, you have to find this innate wanting within yourself to actually do it. And I'm going to make you suffer on purpose so that you will sit your ass down and do the session. And then after a few months, she actually sent it to me. And I just wrote her this morning because I have a certificate ready. And again, like I still haven't told her. But she said that she kind of she is so happy that she did the recording. She was like, yeah, you know what? It's not up to my standards and it's not perfect. And I was like laughing inside myself because I was like, it's not about making it perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Perfect is an illusion. And then she was like, but I'm so happy I did it because now I'm already teaching friends and family. And I was just like, yeah. And you wouldn't have done that if I would have made it easy on you. And that's why you had to learn the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah, amen to that.
That's how I am as a teacher.
Yeah, no, but it's really important to emphasize that, like, it's absolutely vital to because like I received this energy from you, which, yeah, I don't know, you cannot really fake. I mean, I don't know, like there's people, and having those conversations certainly helped me to receive, like, to really be with someone and then also look beyond what they say. It's just like, who did it? Merabian, right? He investigated how much of, communication is basically tied to what we are saying, so the words that we're using. So it's like this 55-18 whatever rule, and 55% is body language, 20-something% is intonation, and the contents of what we are actually saying is like the smallest part. It's like a really tiny part of like what it is that the words that we're actually using. And so like I'm receiving from you, like, yeah, it's daily practice. And this is also something that I've experimented within my practice with meditation, because yes, I'm also not a hatha yogi. I'm not. It's really, Raja and, meditating. And yes, karma, I would say, karma yoga. So also really doing and implementing that in everyday life, and aligning my work accordingly. And so I'm a little bit also sometimes suspicious of like people who understood a lot, and they read Patanjali maybe once or something, and they cognitively think they intellectually understood it, and then basically they never have to look at it again, and they also don't have to practice again, and it's it's not embodied for me then.
I mean, look, the thing is, no matter which area in life or which direction we go, and there will always going to be people who misuse the power that they have, and there will always be people who think, like they know better and they have to tell everyone how to do it. And then again, it's up to us to decide if we want to follow along. And I'm not saying that teachers are not important, not at all. Like we need role models and people who give us guidance and stuff, because also the trust part that we've been talking about before, a great teacher, you will always notice that they find a way to deliver the message, but it's never about them, it's always about you. And they will not tell you that their way is the only way. And if they do, then you should run the other direction.
Yeah.
And it's really as simple as that. But because, obviously we're human beings, we're here for interaction. Like we don't function just by ourselves. I guess we have all noticed that by now. So of course you need the reflection from someone else, and if you feel something inside yourself and you are not practiced enough to be like, okay, can I really trust it or not? Then you need to, talk to someone and like get some feedback, and then follow along. But that's also what annoys me sometimes Because also, you know, like I call it spiritual ego with what you just mentioned. These people who are like, oh, I don't need to practice. Also reason enough to run the other way, because again, great teachers will always be students, and they will always put their practice first, because otherwise you cannot be a great teacher. And then, you know, like also what people don't understand, especially if you're in the beginning of this path, you know, and it may or may not make sense for the listeners. So if you go to those teachers or to those shamans or wherever people go these days, you know, they will always tell you how special you are, because you are, and every person is unique and every person is special in their own unique way, right? So it's right that they tell you, but that doesn't mean that you will then be better than the other people. And just because you went to this shaman, or just because you do the meditation, or just because you notice that breathwork works for you, does not make you a better person in comparison to someone else. And that happens a lot, that people are like, oh my God, I did Kundalini yoga, I did breathwork, I completely understood, you have to do it, you know, because this is how it works. And you're like, no, it is for you, but it doesn't mean that it is for someone else. And just because the shaman told you how special you are, do you know how many people who told that to? Rightfully so, because you are, but so is everyone else. And again, like we have the part of detachment again, you know. When I get told these things, is my identity going to depend on it? Like, do I hold on to it because I need to hear it so much how special I am? Or can I find a way to let that go and again have this feeling inside of me, but also be able to allow other people their, it's probably not a word, their specialness, specialty, being special, you know, like allowing other people to be that too. And again, and then interacting with people in a way, acknowledging that they are special in their own unique way, right? That's what I mean also when we talked about, you know, like that yoga and all of this is not there to make you egoistic. It makes you notice nuance in life. And yes, again, if we look to the politics sides, then, you know, like it's kind of hard to let some people have their opinion, and that's a completely different situation that has like that I don't want to get into, because again, like it's fine. It's a one-on-one situation. It's between you and then you and the other. Like we cannot take yoga and put it on everything and expect the world to be a better place. That is not going to work, right? But again, you in your relationships, whichever one, may they be romantic, may they be work colleagues, friends, family, you can find a way to allow everyone to have their own place, right? You can still be in discussion, but you can be in better discussion if you are able to allow the person to be the way they are, right? It's easier for you and it's easier for the other, and then find a way to, you know, to have that discussion actually go both ways. So it works on all kinds of levels.
Who is a teacher that you respect and follow?
I love Guru Singh. He's a Kundalini yoga teacher. He used to live in LA. I'm not sure if Yoga West was ever his studio or if he just taught there. And I would just go to him and just listen. See, like his classes are 90 minutes, but he basically talks for almost 60 or 45 minutes of it. And then they do like yoga asana or Kundalini yoga practice. And I guess everyone who's there just comes to listen. He's only online these days. I still admire my very first yoga teacher, Roland. He still has a studio in Berlin, Raum für Yoga. He really taught me so much, and I started with him when I was 19, 2001, I guess it was, or 2001, something like that. And there were no Lululemon yoga pants. There was no music in class. You're laughing, you know, it's a thing for many people. We just came there in our sweatpants, you know, like being on the sheepskin, like moving from one pose to the next, like in quietness, trying the meditation. He would always weave in the philosophy into the course. He did an amazing job. I spent 7 years just practicing with him. And then Panchni Shan, she just moved to Munich. I love her a lot. Also a Kundalini yoga teacher. She's also like one of the kindest souls I've ever met, and I also love listening to her when she talks. But it's not just, like I wouldn't just consider yoga or meditation teachers my teachers. It's like it goes beyond that. I've learned a lot from past relationships. So many people. Amy is a great teacher, even though she's sleeping silently right now. She's big, like especially in the whole moving phase. I just noticed again, I already know that we're just one. If she's not around, I feel like my right arm's missing, right? That already says everything. I always turn around, I'm always like, where is she? And then I'm like, I don't know, she's not here. So she's really a part of me. But she was, if I wasn't sure how I was feeling, I would just had to look at her, and I would always know how I'm feeling, because she just mirrors me right back. And she's also the greatest co-teacher, right? She's always there, always meditating with us, always sitting in the background. Today I have this funny video from Kundalini yoga, and then I was in Shavasana at the end, and she just came and she, gave me a dog kiss. And then she was right next to my head, and then she was sitting down, and I was like petting her a little bit, and then all of a sudden she just really falls over with her head like right here next to my shoulder, upside down, belly up, like wanting the belly rubs. So she's pretty big. She taught me a lot.
Beautiful. Yeah. It's whether it's an animal, whether it's a person, relationships can be powerful.
Absolutely.
And they accurately show you where you are in life, aren't you? Yeah. It's amazing. It's like an amazing indicator of where we are in our personal journey. I believe very strongly.
Yeah, and I guess, if we take it also as that, I think relationships are also amazing and difficult at the same time. But, like if we change our idea about it to not that, again, like that we have to find a way to control the relationship in whichever way, and that we have to find to make it work. But if we can see the other person as a teacher and finding a way to grow together, it's not at all easy, not at all. And I have quite a few friends who have been in really long relationships, with children, without children, and it's like, it's really interesting to talk to them about it, and to, again, get their ideas. And just yesterday I had a talk with a friend, and she's been with her husband for like over 20 years. And she also said, she was like, what? Maybe there's just a year or two and they just suck, and that's it, but you've spent so much time and worked so much together, and it's always the question, do you just want to throw that out, or do you just can find a way to be okay with maybe a year that's not so great, and then maybe the next one is again, right? Again, everyone has to find that out for themselves, obviously. But I guess that's what I can see with all of them, that, like they really allow the other person to be, and they can be, again, in surrender to these moments that are just awful. And they're not just throwing everything overboard, but they're like, okay, let's wait and see, like let's surrender to it. Let's just find a way to let it be, and to, again, be in the not knowing, because you don't know. Does it get better? Does it not get better? No one knows. But then, like they always made it work. And then it became better.
What brings you joy these days?
Ooh, coffee in the morning brings me a lot of joy these days. It really does. And it's our little ritual. We have this one coffee spot that we go to like quite a lot, and Amy just loves. Well, it's that one and another one. And Amy just loves to find the crumbs on the floor. So I let her clean the place, and therefore I get coffee, kind of thing. I pay for the coffee, no worries. The new apartment brings me a lot of joy. And my friends, like I do miss them because all of my friends are on what we call it a gaycation. They are.
Okay.
And I'm so jealous that I can't be there. They all went to Sardinia, and we do that every year. And with like the whole moving and everything, I just couldn't make it, right? And I'm just so sad that I can't be with them. But I'm excited for them to come back and to just like have a little brunch here and hang out and have a good time, because I don't want to say I've been annoying with them for the last 6 months, but let's say they really had to put up with a lot. So I have to find a way to, get us back to a normal state.
Right.
Yeah.
What are you proud of?
I don't know, everything and nothing, kind of. I'm not sure if I like the word proud so much. I guess I'm just excited that I just keep on living the life, with all the ups and downs, and with all the not knowing and knowing again, and then again not knowing, and finding ways to be okay with it, and the hardest thing for me to just follow along and not listen to all of the stuff that society tells me that I have to be, but really like listening to what I tell myself what I have to be and want to be, and then change that, because I've changed so many times in my life. And I always say that jokingly, but also not jokingly in my yoga classes when we talk about identity, like this pretend identity of myself to be a yoga and meditation teacher. It's something I chose for now, but I don't know, maybe I'll do it to the end of my life. Maybe I won't. I'm always thinking like with 60, I might become a dog trainer. That's one of the visions I have, Also these days I'm thinking at 60 I get married. Maybe I won't, I don't know, but I feel like if I ever get married, then probably at 60. That's one of those things. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I love it. How are we looking on time?
12:30.
Okay, so
you have a last question?
Tiny bit. Well, I haven't once looked on my paper here.
I think that's a good sign.
It's a good sign. Yeah, definitely a good sign.
I think I have one more thing that I want to say.
Of course.
Because it came up with something that you said, and then I lost track of it again. Because, and it's a little bit related, but right now, out of the blue, I just quickly want to go back to purpose in life and aligning life, because you also said like that you want to align to your job like somehow. And I just want to give permission to people, not from myself, but I'll come to it from the yogic perspective, that it's great that if you are in a situation where your job is combined or like connected with your purpose, but it's not just about that, and it doesn't have to be that way, right? If we look at the Bhagavad Gita, which is a conversation between Lord Krishna and Arjuna is a warrior and a prince, and he has to go into battle against his own family or his cousins and uncles, and he doesn't want to do it, right? And they have this whole conversation about life and how to live life, and it's like the Bhagavad Gita is pretty big in the Bhakti Yoga tradition, and it teaches us a lot about purpose and Dharma, right? Dharma, karma, like all of that kind of stuff. And I have one teacher, his name is Vikram, And he's amazing. And he reframed it in a way that made so much sense. He said from like what he has been taught and then how he like has studied the Bhagavad Gita with his teachers, you have two purposes. You have your material purpose, which is ever changing. That is, like, let's say when you're in your childhood, your purpose is to study. You go to school, like you learn, you like, try to understand life even though you won't, but whatever, like you do all of that. And then you grow up and then you start having a job and then maybe you have a family and then that's the purpose, right? Keeping the family running, keeping the family safe, like doing the job, being responsible with your colleagues, like all of that, la, 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 la. And again, and maybe the job is fulfilling, maybe it isn't. Maybe the only reason the job fulfills is to give you a stocked up bank account so that you can do something or do something for other people, right? But again, and then, like you grow older again and then the family is out of the house and then again your material purpose changes, like maybe you had a house, maybe you sell it, maybe you go travel, maybe you do whatever, and then there's your spiritual purpose. And that is actually the one that, both of them are important, right? Because if you are in your material purpose and you have a family, you have to find a way, like all of you guys together, whoever many people there are in this family, to provide and keep this family alive, right? There's no way around it. But then your spiritual purpose is really following this question of who am I and what am I doing here? Like really broken it down, which is also, for me, that is the essence of spirituality, period. Finding answers to those questions. Who am I and what am I doing here? So wanting to say that there's material and there's spiritual karma, and your spiritual karma is sort of like that's fixed, like that's not really changeable, like those are the questions and they do come up in your life and you have to find ways and tools how to deal with them. But your material karma can change, right? And again, if you have a job that is fulfilling, it's amazing. But if you don't, then, like there's no need to get gray hair and wrinkles over it, because, I also still do jobs that have nothing to do with what I'm even remotely interested in, but they help me pay rent and I'm fine with it. And I can still have a great time and I can still, like I notice that then I have different ways to get along with the people that I work with, like with my colleagues and, like make life easier for them in certain regards, and others not so much, but in certain regards. And then again, I notice that, like part of my purpose still, or part of my dharma, let's put it like this, of my spiritual dharma comes into that space a little bit, but it doesn't have to. Even if it doesn't work, it's fine. So just wanting to give permission and licensing for everyone, like to get off the whole, oh my God, like I have to become a millionaire by, like doing whatever kind of job that gives me all of the fulfillment. Plus, if you talk to people who are quote unquote successful, again, whatever you define as success, you will also notice that it's hard and it's not always easy and there's a lot of ups and downs. And all of these people who have, like built big companies, and we can again, like have a discussion if that's always been their purpose or not, or, like how happy it actually made them. They have all failed many, 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 many times. And that's how we learn. Sorry, I just find that important because I know that people these days are just so pressured to do something. And it's great wanting to do something that, like that gives you purpose, but you doesn't always have to earn money with it. You can earn money with just whatever and then still, like, I don't know, do something where you feel like, like you're contributing in whatever way. And sometimes you're just contributing, like by getting up on the bus and letting the old lady sit, or the old man, or the old person. Older.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's gonna be, that's a very, like, yeah, that's a personal thing for me to figure out. Everyone has a different relationship to that. the more I'm learning as a man who now from somewhere, from a deep place within me, I'm feeling this calling to at some stage care for more than myself, whether that means having my own family or whatever it means, but I just mean it as like something larger than my personal existence. And with that comes along this drive, this innate hunger for doing something of value, again, for more than just myself. And what that's gonna be, how that's gonna manifest, I don't know. And to say it that way and to really feel it that way, it's challenging. Yeah, basically. So that's where I'm at. And there's the way my life is set up right now, I have no choice anyway. So if I were to resist, life would be so much harder.
Mm-hmm.
So surrender really is the only option. So I'm just really grateful to again and again have like conversations like this and see you and see what manifested for you. Without knowing so much of the story again, but like it's just this moment in time, like a present moment of us just like being present with each other and like share what's alive and to combine wisdom that is originating from people who spend so much of their life pursuing one goal and then decided to share that with us, and like how valuable that is and how much of an effect that can has on our existence. And it's beautiful to see the many different colors and shapes that these teachings take up in people, and so it's just a long-winded way of like sincerely saying thank you for this. That's actually, I guess, what I want to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Amy too. I mean, she must have loved it if she is sleeping that deeply.
Yeah. I mean, like, I certainly was not expecting any dog to be as quiet in this kind of like interview situation, but like it worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I mean, I always get that with her. No matter where I take her, people are always like, oh, and she's a Chihuahua. And I'm like, yeah, she's a Chihuahua, but she's very quiet for a Chihuahua. And I always like, well,
Wow.
if you
it's the food that I give her.
No, it's like if you treat them like a dog, then, then they're not like these.
Yeah.
You just have to walk them, feed them, train them. They're smart little things. Now you wake up. Now that I'm saying that you're smart, huh? You're like, I heard that.
Yeah, she's... we touched on it briefly, and like I said, when I'm looking at those questions, like it's the best thing to be prepared, but then, you leave room for
the unexpected.
So you are in the middle of your meditation course. Is there something you want to, or you feel like sharing with what's coming up for you in terms of like the work that you're doing, something that you have planned?
The meditation course will continue. We'll do one more this year, and then we'll also do it next year again, because it's like it's a nice little community that has built. And it helps me with my own practice, and it also helps everyone who joins. And then I'm doing a smaller teacher training. I don't know, in German we would say Fortbildung. I'm not sure if there's an English word for it. So it's a training that we're doing right now for people who already have experience in the healing arts, so that, like you've taught a few classes, you kind of know what it is to sit in front of people and teach. And we'll dive into meditation, because meditation, obviously, you can put together with many different modalities. As I said, like this one woman who combines it with the sound healing. I mean, more than just her, but you can do that. You can combine it with Reiki, with yoga asana, obviously. Some people, like who are natural practitioners, they use it in their work, like whatever. So, it's a smaller training to dive deep into meditation. And I'm gonna change that up a bit. So, because right now it's like only a live training, and I'm gonna change it in a way that you can start it at any time, and then you will have some videos that you can look at, but then you have one-on-one sessions with me, because this is how yoga and meditation has been passed down for years in a one-on-one setting, right? It wasn't done necessarily in groups, because it is an individual practice. So your teacher really like sees you and connects with you. And again, I mean, we can do it in groups, but to really like, if you really want to dive deep, you need this one-on-one connection, right? With someone who really knows like where to push you and where to place you. So I want to do it that way. It's probably going to be like a 3 or 4 months kind of thing. You can start whenever you want. You get the videos, the meditations, and then we have check-in sessions. So, like that you still obviously have to teach the meditation and all that kind of stuff. That is something. And then I'm thinking about doing a mentoring program for newer teachers, because also there's a lot of space for giving support, because it's always the same stuff that comes up when you start teaching. And the answers are kind of simple sometimes, or there's like also certain things you can try out, and also, like this, how to bring in new stuff, like, and especially people want to know more and more how to incorporate those philosophy teachings, and that has a lot to do with practicing yourself and embodying yourself before then you can go on and you can read the book, sure, and then you can recite the book, but it's just not going to land with people. Like, it needs to have your experience, but then how are you going to transport your experience without making it about you and still making it about the people? So there's, a few things to talk about. I'm not sure when all of this is going to happen, because for now, we're doing this apartment. And then once I feel settled, and I have the capacity again, like I'll restart the podcast, and I'll look into how I can set up these things. But that's more or less what's coming up in the near future.
Very exciting. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah, I guess also a very like warm recommendation from my side to people listening and watching to check out your stuff. Yeah, I mean, with the podcast, like I guess if you're listening to this, you somewhat like, maybe you discover it now new through this episode, but maybe you've been listening for a while, so there's maybe a little bit of a trust has been built towards my judgment, and like, yeah, I can just say like that I'm very glad that I reached out, and that like what I've seen and heard from you online is matching up with like the frequency and the energy that you are emanating in person. So I can just recommend you to check out the podcast and the trainings of Michaela, yeah, because it's very nice. You. Yeah. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and I wish you like the utmost success with all of these endeavors. So maybe, I don't know, we meet again in this flat at some stage after my journey when I come back to Berlin.
Who knows?
Yeah, to see what life, what she does with all of us.
We will find out.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. It was great talking to you. Have a great trip.
Yeah, thank you.
Room for the unexpected.
Well, there's no choice.
Yeah, I guess that's it for all of us. Everyone leave room for the unexpected, at least a little bit in your life.
Yeah, that's a beautiful episode title. I might include that. All right. Namaste.
Thank you.